I guess I'm on TV, which is only just here in this house, with me only. It being the 14th of May, 2015. Our goal is to create a life story for my family, and that is its purpose, and fundamentally nothing else. If something comes of it, who knows? But that's not its purpose. It's my children and children's children, and who knows? Maybe in 50 years, 100 years, it could be more of my posterity. My name is Douglas Trainer Snar. I was born in Idaho Falls, Idaho, 1934. And I've always said Bonneville County. I'm proud of Bonneville County. Now, in starting this off, there's many ways I can go. But the more I think about it, I am moved and always have been by the words of Robert Louis Stevenson, who wrote what I think is the best definition of success that's ever been written. This is my opinion. And this is what he wrote. And if anyone could write that and really understand the phenomenon of real success, I think it was Robert Louis Stevenson. He wrote, "That man is a success who has lived well, laughed often, and loved much, who has gained the respect of intelligent men and the love of children, who has found his niche and accomplished his task, who leaves the world better than he found it, whether by an improved puppy, a perfect poem, or a rescued soul, who never lacked appreciation of earth's beauty, nor failed to express it, who looked for the best in others and gave the best he had." Who was Robert Louis Stevenson? A man who started life off with consumption, that is, tuberculosis in our day. And he was born in Edinburgh, Scotland, from a family. His father was, you would call him, upper middle class. He built lighthouses all over the British Isles, well respected. Here comes Robert Louis Stevenson. He's sickly, not expected to live. And they go through all of that trying to keep him alive. Finally, during his later teen years, or maybe early 20s, a doctor told the family, if this boy isn't moved to southern France where the weather is good, he's going to die. And so they found a place for him to go. It was a kind of a hotel that was a special place for artists, whether they paint, or whether they write, or whether they sing, or whether they compose. And a special rate in order to encourage the arts. So he goes. Now he takes his cousin along with him. Everyone needs a pal. There came a lady with 2 children from San Francisco. Her name was Fanny Osborne. And she was a writer and an artist, but she was there for painting purposes. And he was attracted by her, and he'd go and he'd sit on a rock and talk to the children, and he'd tell them stories of pirates and the Southeast and all those oceans and how dangerous it was and all of that kind of thing. His imagination just ran wild. And these kids just, there were 2 of them, just clung to him, couldn't wait till the next day to hear the stories. Well, she was intrigued by him, but he was instantly smitten by Fanny Osborne. But she's married, hasn't got a chance. There's just no way. Well, she leaves and goes back to San Francisco, and he is heartbroken. So he and his cousin head back to Edinburgh, Scotland. And while there, she wrote him a letter and told him she was sick, she was in the hospital, and she was fearful for her life. He didn't tell his parents or anything. He just picks up some money, because they're quite well-to-do, jumps on a ship, and he heads for New York City. Now, when the parents found out he was gone, they tried to stop the ship in the northern part of Ireland when it docked at a stopping place. I think it was Londonderry. Well, didn't work. He would not get off that ship. So on it goes. Then he takes the train and goes across America. He was so sick, he could hardly make it. And when he finally got to San Francisco, when she saw him and he saw her, her husband knew there's nothing I can do. He was a decent, honorable man. He agreed to have a divorce, clean cut, no problems, and he gave her an endowment to help her. He thought to himself, well, he's just a writer. He's never going to amount to anything. Little did he know that within him was that great story of Treasure Island. Well, he ends up finally, in desperation, in Samoa, hoping that weather would somehow help him. Now, the last 4 years of his life, he spent in bed. He would spit blood, literally blood in a bottle. And he would write, he was able to, but unable to converse and speak. His consumption had become so drastic. Well, Stevenson wrote many books, Kim and a bunch of them. I have his complete collection of all of his works. There's something about that story of Robert Louis Stevenson and Fanny Osborne. It was one of the greatest love stories out there. But he knew he was going to die, and he said, I want to be buried at the highest point in Samoa. So he found a place for him to go up this mountain to the very top, and that's where he agreed to be buried. And that's where he is today. Well, he also wrote, oh, the world is so full of many things. I'm sure we should all be as happy as kings. That's the kind of guy he was. The kids loved him. His schedule was this. He would start work at 6 a.m. He had these Samoans, one of them would ring the bell. Get out of bed, you start to write. After he had written, then he had come to breakfast. They all wanted to know, what did you write? Then he would read to them. Afterwards, he'd go back to writing again. And the same thing would repeat. So from when he left breakfast, when he was writing, until the next breakfast afterwards, he'd read to the kids and tell them what he had written. It stirred his imagination, but his imagination was so amazing. His technique of writing was simple. Children could understand it. Adults could understand it. Everyone could understand his writing. It appealed to everyone. That was Stevenson. Well, you know what I like about his success definition? There's no mention of money, and there's no mention of fame. What it is, and I believe everyone, is within their grasp or pale to achieve what Robert Louis Stevenson wrote, pursuant to what success really is all about. And so it's been kind of a guiding light to me.